physically writing notation, like sheet music. Is that something that you learned as a child? Did you learn that in college? Do you sit there? In my mind, I'm imagining like that movie Amadeus, where Mozart is like leaning over the pool table and he's like drinking and writing with a
Yeah.
quill pen. Or have you ever, or do you use, because I know there's a lot of computer software these days where you can play MIDI and you can have it actually write the sheet music of your MIDI through the software. How do you go about doing that?
Yeah. Um, I will either write at a piano or I'll write at a computer. And I I I think in general I come up with an idea and then I sit down and put it in to the computer. But sometimes I'll start with a fragment of an idea, and then by sitting at a piano or computer, I begin to kind of hang some meat on it, so to speak, and it grows into the thing that it was meant to become. Um, I I think the idea of sitting, there's this romantic idea of sitting with a quill and a piece of paper, and in general, I think you have to learn how to do that stuff. Like, you have to learn to crawl before you walk. I think you need to know how to write stuff down on paper. But at this point in my career, I do know how to do that. I can do that. But writing at the computer makes me much faster. And it's important at this point for me to be able to really sort of drive at freeway speeds and not crawl along. So it just increases my workflow.
Okay. But yeah, so you have done that and you can do that where you sit, and I know it is sort of a romantic thought in a way that you're sitting and writing the what key it's going to be in, and then exactly what the melody is going to be. That's cool. But I mean, people could do that though these days. They could learn. I know there's a piece of soft Logic Pro has that. I think it's called the score editor. I don't kid What kind of software do you use? Can you say?
So my primary notation software is Finale, and I'm going to say that. And anybody that's watching this that is under the age of 40 is laughing at me right now, and anybody that's over the age of 40 is like, yeah, I get it. That guy grew up in a time when Finale was the thing, and so that's what I learned. You know, it was for a time. It was the industry standard to learn the program Finale, but just I think it was last year it went under and it is no longer supported. So now I have this dinosaur of a program. Every time I open it, I think, is this going to be the last time it agrees to open and I make music, or do I need to move on? So my program is Finale. And a second ago, you said something about MIDI. And while I do use MIDI to create sounds, to mock up sounds, I don't use MIDI to create notation. Um, a I don't think I know how to do that, and it saved me any time at all. I think it would take twice the amount of time. And B, I've gotten into this rhythm, this workflow that works for me, and I'm just not interested in changing that. Now I really do sound like a dinosaur myself, but it because I know what works and because I know the beginning, middle, and end of my process, then I don't see a reason to tweak it. So I've never really done the whole MIDI as notation, but I know plenty of people that do.
Yeah, and just to briefly, for people who don't know what MIDI is at all, it stands for Musical Instrument Digital Interface. And it's basically using some sort of controller to input information into your computer that can then be interpreted as musical notes, sounds, or whatever you assign to it. And then that can translate into your sheet music. But so you're saying the way that you do it is you're taking some sort of acoustic energy. Like, are you recording piano like with a microphone and then it translates into the sheet music?
No, so I using my keyboard on my laptop or the keyboard on my desktop. I'm gesturing like you can see it over there. I input notes on a staff using the number key. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Those all equal certain note values. So in finale, 5 is a quarter note, 4 is an eighth note, 6 is a half note. And so I move the cursor up and down and I put those notes where they're supposed to go. Um, and then if I'm using MIDI, I'll use it to create a recording that I can send a client. So if somebody has commissioned me to write something and I want them to hear kind of my progress or what I'm thinking, if I'm trying to kind of idea board more or less, I'll come up with some like I'll write the music out on my computer and then I'll play it into these MIDI programs and it just makes it sound, I can make it sound like a choir, I can make it sound like an orchestra, what have you. But I don't use it like I don't use a microphone and I don't use MIDI to create notation.
Okay, I see. I don't know anything about finale, but that's fascinating that you can. So you're just pressing the numbers and you're choosing what you want the notes to be, and then you're using the computer to place them on the staff, which is it's just the same thing really as sitting there with a quill
Yeah,
pen in a lot of ways, except that you're like actually just using a computer to place it where you want it.
yeah.
Okay. Yeah, no, I get it. That's really interesting. I can imagine somebody sitting there doing that.
It probably sounds antiquated in many ways. And I'm sure my version that I just told you, where I write something out and then I play it, I'm sure I'm taking in some ways twice as long to do that. But I know and trust that method. And so I just stick with it. But there's really no wrong way to go about it.
Yeah, I mean, and sometimes, it's like if you already know how to do something, you're going to be twice as fast at it just from the sheer, practice of
Yeah.
having done it so many
Yeah. The
times.
repetition for sure.
But so when you like if because the way that like say I would write something if I was writing my own music, like I'll go and hum things and record it, and then I'll hear another part and I'll hum the other part and I record it into Pro Tools and it layers up like that and then I can hear the whole piece. But if you're just entering notes like that and you're hearing it in your head, I guess that's the part that's always fascinating me, because the way it comes out in me is I'm either singing it or I'm playing it on guitar. But you're putting notes, for like lack of a better way to say it, like straight from your brain without ever hearing it like on an external instrument?
Yeah, potentially. Uh,
That's awesome.
if it, here's my litmus test. If I can play something 2 or 3 times at the piano and it be more or less the exact same each time, I'll say to myself, all right, there's your idea. Go with that. If I can't play it 2 or 3 times in a row, that's my signal that I don't yet have the idea out from here in a way that I can write it down. So I have to be able to repeat it to myself. And in that repetition, then I do it a couple of times and I'm able to write it down for somebody else to sit down and do it, you know. But I have to pass, that's the first, maybe not the first hurdle, but that's the main hurdle, is being able to do it multiple times in the same way so that it it feels kind of locked in, if that makes sense.